I hope you're having a fantastic weekend. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Behind the Law. Last week, we addressed your student loan problems and even your IRS debt. Today, we're going to finish talking about how to deal with the student loan problems and even if bankruptcy might be a way to tackle IRS debt that you've had.
This is Behind the Law with Justin Clark on ESPN 580 Orlando.
One more segment ahead. Thank you for spending your weekend here with us on Behind the Law. Any legal question that you may have will be answered. 3, 2, 1. You get me? Chase, welcome to the show. Hold on. Whoa, time out.
What?
We have to break away from the show for one moment, ladies and gentlemen. Our producer just arrived. What time is it? What happened, buddy? Did I really tell you the show was another day?
Yes.
I don't know about that, pal. You guys need to communicate more because I should be out of this loop. Mr. Bluefield arrived at least an hour late today, but Chase, we're happy to see you.
Glad to see you
Everything
guys as
went
well.
great without you, let me tell you. Just smooth
Gosh,
sailing.
I hope so.
And I like the intro music.
Thank
too.
Yeah,
you.
that was good.
Very nice.
321-282-1055. You have power.com. She's AlliMac. I'm Justin Clark. It's Behind the Law. ESPN 580. We're talking about your debt, specifically your IRS debt, and how do you get rid of it. We talked about an offer in compromise. You can settle your debt with the IRS. You can pay them over time via an installment agreement. Try to get those penalties wiped out. If you owe $100,000, you probably really only owe like $70,000 in actual taxes. So do the $70,000. If you can't settle it, pay it off over time. What about bankruptcy? We talk about bankruptcy on this program sometimes, and most people will tell you you can't get rid of IRS debt by filing bankruptcy. What do you think, AlliMac?
Well, I mean, I think that once you file for bankruptcy, it should be all wiped out, right? So
while many of you might think you cannot wipe out IRS debt by filing bankruptcy, the actual answer is you can wipe out many types of IRS debt by filing bankruptcy. The real test is, what is the age of the IRS debt? So look and see what year tax returns this debt was from, and if it's more than 3 years old, more times than not, you can completely wipe out your IRS debt by filing bankruptcy. So people come to me all the time and they say, well, I owe American Express $40,000. I had a car repo. I got the IRS $50,000. I've got a lease that I broke. They're suing me. I'm like, well, it's a no-brainer. We file bankruptcy, wipe out all that debt and the IRS.
So even if I owe $100,000 to the IRS, I filed for bankruptcy, that gets wiped out?
If the debt is more than 3 years old, you can wipe out IRS debt by filing bankruptcy. Now,
Wow.
a couple little caveats here. You have to have filed the returns. So you can't say, oh, well, I'm going to go file 8 years worth of returns today and then file bankruptcy tomorrow. There's a waiting period, right? So you can't just go in and file them all at once and then file bankruptcy the next day. It's got to, the returns have to have actually been filed. You also can't typically wipe out IRS debt from the trust fund variety. I'll explain what that means in a minute by filing bankruptcy, but a lot of small business owners, you have employees, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you have employees, you pay them a paycheck, right? And then it's your responsibility to withhold their tax money,
Right.
and then it's your responsibility to send that money to the IRS. What happens sometimes with small business owners is they simply run out of money, and they don't actually distribute that money to the IRS. This is called trust fund taxes. And the IRS frowns on this big time. And because, I mean, it's kind of stealing-ish in a way,
Right.
because you're withholding the money that your employees are using to pay taxes, and you're using them for yourself or your business or whatever. So the IRS, if you're self-employed and you have employees, you always just, use a payroll company, whatever it is, just make sure that money gets out of your account. I know what it feels. I mean, I know that it doesn't feel good putting it out of your account, but just make one check every 2 weeks or every week that covers the actual payroll and the payroll taxes. You'll feel a lot better. These IRS agents will come to your office immediately if you don't send in the trust fund or the 941 taxes. Be careful. And you can't typically wipe those out by filing bankruptcy as well.
Oh, wow.
So if you're a small business owner, just make sure you do whatever you can do to get those payroll taxes paid. There's no kind of tax that they will come at you more aggressively than trust fund taxes.
Can you do a payment plan with that, or?
So you can. So with the trust fund, you still can do workout with the IRS. You can still, try to pay them over time, try to settle it, whatever it is, but they are way more aggressive in their collection practices. in coming after you for those. But there are options. There are things that you can do to settle with the IRS, even when it comes to the trust fund stuff. But again, it's different than just like your personal tax return. But so let's make no mistake. If you owe money to the IRS and it's more than 3 years old, you generally speaking will be able to wipe that out by filing bankruptcy. And then the next question I get, AlliMac, is, well, if I file Chapter 7, or what is a Chapter 7, first of all, but if I do file it, can I keep my car? What do you think?
I know that you can because I filed it.
Uh-oh.
And I kept my car.
Well, good. I mean, look, bankruptcy sometimes is the absolute best financial decision a family or an individual can make. It really is, because you're saddled with all of this debt. Your credit's bad. Even if your credit is good and you have a ton of debt, no one's going to lend you money because your debt-to-income ratio is completely out of whack. So you want to save your credit. I care about my credit, blah, blah, blah. The only reason you need credit is to go buy stuff, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the only thing credit's really good for, is for buying a house or buying a car or getting credit cards. But if your debt-to-income ratio, all these cards are maxed out, your credit's good, but you can't get anything, you can't buy anything. But if you file bankruptcy, all of that gets off of your credit report. Now your debt-to-income ratio is fantastic. Yep. And a bankruptcy is very quick and easy. A Chapter 7 bankruptcy, 3 months, maybe 4 months, in and out, you're done. Your credit score is going to go up by probably 150 to 200 points within 12 months. I mean, the Chapter 7 bankruptcy is such a quick, simple, inexpensive process that if you have a lot of debt, including IRS debt especially, you need to seriously consider talking to someone like me. And you can do that by calling 321-282-1055. We also have plenty of information on the website, www.youhavepower.com. Well, Justin, I have all this debt. I want to file bankruptcy, but I want to keep my house. Can you?
That I don't know, because I lost my house.
Uh-oh. So, of course, guys, if you own a home or a car and you want to file bankruptcy, you can absolutely do what's called reaffirm your car and just keep paying on your house. You do not lose your house unless you want to. You can put it in the bankruptcy if you're underwater on your house and say, I want to give up the house. But most people want to keep their home. If they own the home, they have a decent payment, they want to keep it. And if you file Chapter 7 bankruptcy, you can absolutely, positively keep your car and your home. In fact, we have set up a program through the Chapter 13 bankruptcy process where you can lower your mortgage payment by filing bankruptcy. It's called the Mortgage Mediation Modification Program. So if you file Chapter 13 bankruptcy, we just file a motion and the judges liberally grant these motions to make the bank mediate with us. They have to come to our office and have a full mediation in regards to your house payment. Here's a good rule of thumb. If your mortgage payment is more than 31% of your gross monthly income, you really need to consider doing a modification of that mortgage. And you can do so by filing bankruptcy. This Chapter 13 bankruptcy is a great way to modify this mortgage. So just do the calculation right now. Take your gross monthly income, whatever that is, multiply by 0.31, and that should be your mortgage payment. And this payment is including PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And if it's more than 31%, you really need to do something, because quite frankly, the finances monthly are out of whack. You're paying too much towards your house. You're not going to have enough left over to pay for other things. So by filing bankruptcy, not only can you keep your home, you can oftentimes lower your house payment by filing bankruptcy. What about second mortgages? You remember back in the day, everyone was getting the 80-20 loan?
Yep.
So they didn't have to make a down payment. They would get a first mortgage of 80%, second mortgage of 20%. By filing Chapter 13 bankruptcy, oftentimes you can completely wipe out that second mortgage.
Justin, what's the difference between a Chapter 7 and a Chapter 13?
So a Chapter 7 is the quick 3-month liquidation process bankruptcy. It's like, I'm just cashing in all my chips, I'm going to move on my way, right? You can keep your house and car, but for the most part, it's a very simple, quick process. A Chapter 13 is more of a repayment plan. So we pay the trustee every month a certain amount of money, which pays back, a small percentage of your unsecured debts. But you can also strip second mortgages. If you have an HOA lien, you can strip that typically, but you're paying back a small percentage. So it's a longer process. The last thing I want to tell you about the Chapter 13 is many people come to me with a very high interest rate on their car, right? Hey, I went to buy here, pay here, it's 25%. I'm like, well, 25%? This is incredible, an incredibly high interest rate. In a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, more times than not, you can lower that interest rate to 5 to 6%. So you're saving money on your car payment as well. If you have any debt, call me. 321-282-1055. Central Florida's 27 WRDQ every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. and of course right here on ESPN 580.
Have a lot of debt, issues with your student loan payments, or IRS problems? Get the answers to all your legal questions and more on Behind the Law with attorney Justin Clark every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. on TV 27.
This is Behind the Law with Justin Clark on ESPN 580 Orlando.
You know, look, AlliMac, I'm essentially in the debt business. That's what I do. I help people and families through their debt problems. There's nothing more scary than the thought of going to Winn-Dixie and running your credit card, trying to buy groceries for the family and not knowing if it's going to be declined. Or your debit card and it's declined right there. You have a basket full of groceries. And unfortunately, we live in a society where we make pretty good money, but by the time you take the taxes out and you pay the health insurance and then you pay the mortgage, I mean, there's just not a lot of money left over at the end of the month. And then when you add to your monthly expenses, $1,200 to credit cards, $50,000 worth of credit card debt, it's not possible. So at some point in time, people have to make the decision, do I care more about paying Amex or do I care more about putting food on the table?
Right.
And my answer unequivocally is I don't care about Amex. I do care about you putting food on your table. And I know what sort of feeling that is. Like when you go to the ATM machine and you're afraid to look at the little receipt because you're afraid of how much money's in that bank account.
Yeah.
I would never look, Amex doesn't care about you. Bank of America doesn't care about you. We don't live in a society anymore where we go down to the little credit union and talk to John, who's an old family friend, who's going to loan us the money. That's not the world in which we live. I can guarantee you, if you are having financial trouble and you try to call Capital One and say, look, Capital One, I'm having trouble putting food on the table, they're not going to send you a letter saying, we're so sorry this is happening to you. We want to work with you. Not at all. They're just going to ding your credit. You don't pay them, and then they're ultimately going to sue you.
Right.
So if you're feeling strapped every month, if you get it to the end of the month or you get to that Thursday before that next Friday pay period and there's literally no money left in the account, but you're paying all of these old debts, you need to have a serious conversation with someone like me about whether it's worth living this stressful financial life, paycheck to paycheck, or if there are things that you can do about it. And you can call me, 321-282-1055, and plenty of information about all this information at www.youhavepower.com. And there are all sorts of debts that people deal with. Student loan debt is a huge one right now. And student loans are very hard to deal with in that they don't have to sue you, right? They just have to send you a letter or send your employer a letter, and they can come take your money. They can take your tax return just like that. You'll never see, if you owe student loans or you're not current on them, you're never going to see a tax refund until you do something about it, until you get them back on track somehow. And there are plenty of ways to do that. I mean, you said your husband is still paying student loans. I mean, what kind of program is he on? Do you have any idea?
Well, we pay a very small amount monthly. I think it's pretty much of the school that he was in. He got a loan from there, so it's not an outrageous amount that we're paying a month, but it's just something that is just a thorn, every day. I mean, every month that we have to pay, and of course, every so many years they raised our monthly payments. But it's just something. If I can get rid of it, I would.
Yeah, I mean, student loans, there are plenty of things that you can do. Don't listen to people telling you, oh, it's student loan debt, nothing you can do. There are plenty of options. Especially if you're paying like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month for your student loans, you're likely paying too much of your income to this past debt. There are things that you can do. You need to talk to someone like me or call the student loan companies yourself and say, look, I'm paying too much. I don't have any money at the end of the month, yet I'm paying you guys. But I'm paying too much of my income to you to where I don't have money left at the end of the month. That's no way to live. You don't want to live like that. And there are just so many options out there when it comes to dealing with this debt. So call someone like me, 321-282-1055. So we talk about bankruptcy on this show quite a bit, of course. And really there are two main types of consumer bankruptcy, and people get them confused all the time. Is it Chapter 7 and a Chapter 13? Chapter 7. This is the quick 2, 3, maybe 4 months in and out process, it's a liquidation. You don't pay
just wanna
anything
wipe
back.
your debt, period.
You wipe it all out. You can save your car. You can keep your car. You can keep your house if you want to. The car is a decision we have to make. If your car is far underwater, maybe we want to give it back. Maybe we don't want to keep this underwater car. And then because you're filing bankruptcy, they can't sue you for the deficiency. But we need a car to drive around too. So sometimes we'll even reaffirm cars that are underwater. Just, it's a personal decision that I'm going to help you make. But a Chapter 7 is a very quick 3-4 months in and out. You don't owe anyone anything. Well, Justin, it's going to ruin my credit. Chapter 7 is good for your credit. This is what people are always shocked at. Most people that come to see me have some debts that are being unpaid. So their credit's already taken a little bit of a hit. I have to pull a credit report for you. So before we ever file bankruptcy, I'm going to pull a credit report that shows me every single debt you've ever owed to anyone your whole life. It's a very fancy credit report. This credit report also is going to show me what your credit score is today. As we sit here today, it's going to tell me what your score is. 580, 550, 610, whatever it is, I will know what the credit score is today. But what's interesting is it shows me what your credit score is going to be 12 months from now. It's going to show me what your credit score will be 12 months after we file this bankruptcy, and inevitably, it's going to go up by 100 to 200 points. And people are like, what? I thought this was going to ruin me for 10 years. Absolutely not. It is oftentimes the fastest way to get back into home ownership. The fastest way to feel normal again financially is to wipe out all of this old debt. The relief that I see on your face when you come in, and I know you've been paying $1,200 a month to these old credit cards. You don't have any room on them. You can't go spend anymore, but you're certainly paying every month for them. $800, $1,200 a month. The relief that I feel when I say, look, you're never making that $1,200 payment again. Never again. $1,200 can go a long way in feeding and raising a family.
Oh, it can.
Can it not? I mean, $1,200 a month, you can do a lot with that. That's several car payments for your family. That's certainly groceries for the month. It could be your rent payment. Could be your mortgage payment.
Can you pick and choose? Like, say I have 5 different credit cards, but I really don't want to get rid of my one. I have 7 years worth of great payments. It's manageable. I still have some I guess some leeway in there, but the other ones I just want to get. So do I have that option of just wanting to keep one credit card during the bankruptcy process, or do I have to put everything in?
This is a great question, and people ask this every single day. Good job, AlliMac. Great question. The answer is no. You can't pick and choose. Every single card that you have goes away, but here is the beautiful part. The day after the bankruptcy is over, the day we get what's called the discharge, this piece of paper saying you don't owe anyone anything, that day you're going to get multiple credit card offers. They're going to come flying in the mail because now you're a great candidate for credit again. You have great credit. You don't have any debt. Your debt to income ratio is 0. So you're a fantastic candidate to get credit. You're going to get credit cards the day after bankruptcy. But the answer to that question is normally it's Amex. They're like, oh, I want to keep my Amex. I don't want to piss them off. Well, you can't. You have to put all of them into the pot. They all have to go away. But it's a temporary thing. You're going to get credit again as soon as the bankruptcy is over. And so that's a Chapter 7. I mean, a Chapter 7 is a very quick way to get your life back, really. And it's really not a terrible thing for your credit. The little more complicated bankruptcy is called a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. And a Chapter 13, it's a repayment plan. So there's a Chapter 13 trustee where you're going to pay every month a certain amount of money. And then she's going to pay your car payment out of that. She's going to pay your house payment out of that. And then a certain amount of that money is going to go to pay what we call unsecured creditors. Think of them as the credit cards, okay? But our job is to show that you can only afford to pay a little bit of that. So let's say you owe $50,000 to your unsecured creditors. Maybe you pay $5,000 to them over the next 3 years in a monthly payment to the trustee. So a Chapter 13 bankruptcy sometimes sounds bad to people because they feel they're going to be locked into this thing for 3 to 5 years. But if you have a lot of debt, you can take your monthly payments from $1,500 to $100 or $200. So many times a Chapter 13 makes great sense for people. It's just kind of hard to feel like you're under the thumb of the trustee's office for the next 5 years. So I have to help people understand that it's not so bad. It's not a terribly life-altering thing. But the big difference with the Chapter 13 is that if you have a second mortgage or if you have a homeowners association issue and they're suing you, you can strip those liens. You can wipe them out completely. So if your house is worth less than your first mortgage, you totally wipe out that second mortgage, or you totally wipe out the 15 grand the HOA says that you owe them. So that's a huge benefit of filing the Chapter 13 bankruptcy, is getting rid of any second lien. And the car payment as well. So you come into my office, you have a huge car payment because you've had bad credit. That's why you're filing bankruptcy. So obviously your car interest rate was pretty high, right? The interest rate was just astronomical, 20%, 25%, 30% sometimes we see. Well, they are required at that point to lower the interest rate down to about 5 to 6%. So if you have a car payment at 25% interest, I mean, your payment can be $800. If it lowers to 5 or 6%, your payment might be $300 or $400. So that's a significant savings right there just with the car payment.
Right.
So every month you're going to have a certain amount of money that you pay to the trustee in this Chapter 13. So this is going to include your mortgage payment. So let's say your mortgage payment is $1,500. It's going to include that. It's going to include your car payment. You're going to pay it through her office as well. And you just write one check a month to her, and then she's going to pay these bills for you. Okay, so
Now-
it's not that crazy.
Now, when you file a Chapter 13, I understand when you file a Chapter 7, your credit, gets better within a certain period of time. Now, when you file a Chapter 13, how soon is it when my credit will start getting better?
So with the Chapter 13, you're not going to get that discharge until the bankruptcy's over. So it could be 3 to 5 years. But that being said,
wow.
once you're in what's called a confirmed Chapter 13 plan, a lot of mortgage companies will actually give you a mortgage when you're in a confirmed plan. So as long as you're in a confirmed Chapter 13 plan that you're actually paying every month, life's pretty good. Life is not so bad. So a Chapter 13, don't let it scare you, because I would much rather you do a Chapter 13 and pay $100 a month towards your old credit cards versus paying $1,500 a month. I mean, just do the math. That frees up $1,400 a month that you can use to really take care of your family.
Right.
And one of the biggest benefits of both types of bankruptcy, and most people don't understand this, if you owe a bunch of money to the IRS, whether you file a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13, if this IRS debt is more than 3 years old, you can wipe it out. It's wiped out. 0.0 you have to pay. You don't have to pay the IRS back if the debt's more than 3 years old, unless they put liens and things like that. But generally speaking, if you have IRS debt that's more than 3 years old, it is completely wiped out by filing bankruptcy. It's a great thing. I mean, it is a great thing because there's nothing more scary than dealing with the IRS. I mean, the world's largest collection company, that's what the IRS is. And they have much more power than regular creditors. The IRS doesn't have to sue you, ladies and gentlemen. The IRS doesn't have to file a lawsuit and come serve you, and you can defend it for 2 years, drag it out. They don't have to do that. All the IRS has to do is send you a letter, green sticky on top, certified mail, right? Saying, we're going to come in and take your money out of your bank account. They know where you bank, trust me. They know where your bank account is. They know that Wells Fargo number. Mark my words, they can get in there and take your money so easily. Or they know where you work, because you get payroll taxes, right? You pay taxes through your employer. They know where you work because they get that information. All they have to do is send a letter to your employer. Next thing you know, your paycheck is much less because the IRS is taking the money. And a lot of people count on that tax refund at the end of the year as well. Even though you owe past taxes, you have back taxes from the last few years, you're paying taxes now. You're paying them this year. And at the end of the year, February 15th, once you get that W-2 in the mail, you're expecting $5 grand, $6 grand. This is my emergency fund. This is the money I'm going to use for a vacation. We do it every year. My family takes a vacation February 15th because we know we're going to get our tax refund. Well, if you owe money to the IRS, they are going to keep that every year, no matter what, unless you can work out some kind of deal before tax season rolls around.
So when somebody gets a letter in the mail from the IRS, should they immediately contact you, or should they just ignore it and say, let's see how long it takes, and then your employer starts garnishing your wages, and then by that time, is it too late to come to you?
It's not. I mean, there are plenty of things we can do. It's not too late, but dealing with the IRS is not one of these debt issues that you should bury your head in the sand. You need to get out in front of it, and you can do that with a free consultation with me at 321-282-1055. Plenty of information about this subject and all areas of practice that we engage in are on the website, youhavepower.com. Again, it's 321-282-1055. 1055. Plenty of ways to interact with AlliMac and I. You can watch all of our shows on Facebook. You can watch them live as we shoot them. ATTY, Justin Clark. Watch the show every Sunday morning. DVR it if you're at church. 10 a.m. Central Florida's 27, WRDQ. You're a big church girl.
I am. Oh, yes, I am.
AlliMac can't even watch her own show because she's always at church. She's at church every morning, ladies and gentlemen. She's a really great person. 321-282-1055. Central Florida's 27 WRDQ every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. and, of course, right here on ESPN 580. AlliMac?
Yes.
What do you think? I mean, am I stressing you out when I talk about debt, or do you feel like some relief that you know there are some options?
It's a little stressful.
Yeah?
Yeah. But at the same time, I find that I'm getting a lot more information than I think I did before. But, I mean, I still think that I did the right decision. But it's nice to know that, you know, in the event that, you know, because of the IRS or the student loans or anything like that, it's nice to be informed. And it's nice to know if somebody else had any kind of issue like that. Now I know, you know, that, you know, some information, and I'm definitely going to send them over to you for anything like that.
I'm a magician, man.
You are?
I'm a magician. I meet with probably 10 families a day who are going through tough times, and like immediately there's just, I was like built to do this. I was built to see, oh, this is what we should do. Do boom, 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 boom. Life's better. Smile on their face. They leave way happier than when they came. Makes me feel good. I deal with a lot of people who are very, very, very stressed out. And when they leave, I say, look, unless you promise me you're going to go home tonight and get some rest and not roll around on your bed all night, you know, flipping the pillow over because you're so stressed out about your debt, unless you promise me you're going to go home and get a good night's sleep tonight, I won't even represent you. You have to promise me that you're going to trust me. And I'm going to try to make life a lot better for you financially. That's AlliMac. I'm Justin Clark. 321-282-1055, www.youhavepower.com. Watch us every Sunday. Central Florida's 27 WRDQ. That's at 10 a.m. If you can't be home, please DVR it. We want the ratings. We want to go show them, like, look, this is a real TV show here. We're a real force to be reckoned with.
We are.
And then we can pick and choose our time. We might be on every day if you guys keep watching. We'll see. I don't want any hash marks. Central Florida's 27, WRDQ, 10 a.m. Sunday mornings. Also on Sundays on ESPN 580. And by all means, if you want to see some past shows, go to our Facebook page at ATTY Justin Clark, and you can see this show and any past show that we've ever done about IRS debt, credit card debt, student loan debt, personal injury, all of our practice areas. ATTY Justin Clark AlliMac, thank you for joining me as always. You're doing a great job. My name is Justin Clark. We'll see you right back here next week. WRDQ, Central Florida's 27.
Have a legal question? Visit youhavepower.com or call 321-282-1055 or post a comment at ATTY Justin Clark. This is Behind the Law with Justin Clark on ESPN 580 Orlando.